Hello everybody and welcome to this playthrough for Pro and Expert Division in the Winter Slopes Tournament. The video is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic. Before we start and take the first shot here on hole number 1, do not forget to check down in the video description down below for direct timestamps to all the holes in this playthrough. Have in mind that this playthrough is not showing the win that we're going to have in the tournament. So this is a general playthrough that is going to show you how to play the holes with various type of wind. Then we're going to complete with a new playthrough for both Pro and then one for Expert when the tournament has started. If you do want to get the text guides or maybe have a training session with me, then you can then you can sign up for that on patreon.com/golfclashtommy. So let's go with hole number 1. Important here to have in mind that we're going to play this hole with an over adjustment of 20% due to the downhill approach. So this wind that is around 10 miles per hour is more or less going to be around 11.5 to 12 miles per hour when we are adjusting for it. 4 bars of topspin here. I'm going to aim for my yellow ring with the extra mile to be just by the rough there on the left, and then perfectly aligned with the bottom part of the bunker to the right. I'm using 3 bars of side spin combined with the ball just outside the adjustment ring to the right with curl. Unfortunately, I hit it great, but the only thing I would do here as a change is that I would be, of course, taking away the fact that I hit it great and hit it perfect. And then for the second part, I do want to only play with 1 bar of side spin to the right here. Then we're going to be much closer. But in the end, that is going to definitely secure and give ourselves a very nice and easy birdie. Hole number 2. Here we're going to add 10% extra for our drive when we play downhill. Short par 4, pay attention to the compressed and the extended ball guideline. I'm going to show you an approach with tailwind and one with headwind. So you can see here 3 bars of topspin, and you can see that the second bounce of with a ball guideline is going to be in the center of the rough there on top. I can also put it back a little bit further down as we can see that we are kind of close to hitting the fairway on top of the rough there. But the trick that we're doing here is that we do need to over adjust the landing position and just take a look at the second bounce. That's the important part that we need to have in mind with this specific hole. That of course we do want to hit the rough, but we do not want to hit the rough sorry, I do not want to hit the rough with a speed that is too hot. Then we're going to bounce in the rough and roll over the green completely, or we're going to do as our opponent is going to do now, use too much topspin and bounce over the rough completely. And that is going to be totally changed when we play with headwind, as the bounce is going to be reacted differently due to having headwind and having tailwind on this approach. So 3 bars of topspin going to be enough. Move back the target a little bit more, having around half, like second bound, half inside the rough. There we want to have our second bounce. Then you adjust for 10% extra with max numbers, always max numbers here. And you can see here our opponent bouncing over, getting into the rough, and then of course having a rough iron shot is not going to be the easiest way to get the ball in the hole, even though that rough iron shot is going to be fairly easy, as it's going to be very close to the ground and not be affected by the wind whatsoever. Me myself, we have a very short wedge, and then we take it and just chip it in and take the eagle. And I would have to say, no matter what type of wind we're going to have here on this hole, we're going to have to make an eagle. That is going to be so extremely important that I cannot stress that enough. And if we do not get an eagle here, it's going to be a lost stroke. I do believe over watching the holes in this playthrough that we're going to see low scores, very low scores, even lower scores that we had in the last tournament here. Depends though on the wind, especially on hole number 8, if that is going to be a complete eagle or not. And I'm going to come to that, of course, when we come to hole number 8. Our opponent chip it in nicely there from the rough. Well done, well done, well done. So we're going to go to the headwind approach, and now it's time to go with max topspin. And I say max topspin all the way up to 6-7 bars of topspin. If you have a Thor's hammer level 6 or something like that, that you have more, use 6 to 7 bars of topspin. That is going to be enough. But the important part here is that we do need to have in mind that we do need to focus on having the second bounce when we aim with our landing position to have it a lot further up than we had with tailwind, as for the compressed ball guideline that we're going to get. So our opponent is bouncing over there very, very nicely. And now I come to the headwind approach. I'm playing with a mauling ball here, which is again, it's a way to show that it's possible, but I would play with a power 3 and also with a side spin 2 ball or 3 ball. The most important part, of course, is wind resistance. So wind resistance 3 would be the ultimate way here. So a kingmaker would be the best. Take a look at the second bounce here, everyone. On top there, and you can see I'm still having like the yellow ring just by the bunker there. Now in headwind, I'm going to adjust 15% extra with max number. You can see we went into overpower mode, and then I go with a tiny bit of overpower. And that is something that you can take away with using a ball with more power. Now we don't have any power on the mauling ball, and of course that is going to be a problem in that case. So we get into the fringe, going to be a very easy wedge there for us, but you can see there the difference between the landing position for the first shot in tailwind and also for the headwind that came afterwards there. So we're gonna go to hole number 3 here now, and here again we're going to have to adjust for the downhill approach. I'm going to have to over adjust with 20% due to this downhill approach. Max topspin, which is 6 bars with X mile level 8, max side spin to the right, which is 4.5 bar of side spin to the right. And I would say that if you do in this case have tailwind, we can take away and play with 5 bars of topspin instead. Sure, you can play with 6 bars, but we do want to find ourselves in a fair distance that we are not having the trees that I'm going to show you soon in play, and have to curl around that and stuff like that. Power 3 ball is important, especially for the second shot, as we with headwind for the second shot is going to have a problem without if we're not going to want to use overpower. We get it there into the center of the rough and bunker on the left and the bunker on the right, which is good. And now we're going to have a shot for the pin, which is going to be very important. That's something that we're always going to want to focus on having. So our opponent here going with the same type of approach, same type of club, and he's going to use more curl than I do. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but I would be aware, I would be try to at least think about it, that when we're having like straight tailwind, straight headwind, or wind left to right, that we don't need to use that much curl, as the ball is still going to end up where we want to. And the problem we can have that if we over adjust with curl in, let's say, a wind left to right, then we can potentially put that bunker on the right, as you can see our opponent's ball rolling past. That could potentially be in play. And if you get in any rough or sand, you cannot reach for the green in 2. 2 bars of topspin, max side spin to the right. You can see I'm having the sniper. I do highly suggest that you play with the big dog or the cataclysm that gives you 180 yards. But at least you're going to have to play with a club that has more than 172 yards that the sniper is having. I will have to go with max overpower to be able to get to the point where I want to aim and get it to bounce over. The 2 bars of topspin only when we get into this situation. Otherwise 1 bar of topspin is going to be enough. And we do have in this case with crosswind go without topspin or backspin. With tailwind we go with half a bar of backspin. So let's go to hole number 4. Hole number 4, par 3. And hole number 4, par 3 is going to be an interesting one, as the bounce that we're going to have is most likely going to be very inconsistent. So first we need to add 10% to our adjustment due to the slight downhill approach and also the approach that we're going over water. Aiming slightly to the right and behind the pin as for the crosswind we're having, but also that we're using the backspin on the Guardian that will make the ball, when it hits that slightly uphill part on the fairway that we're aiming for, the ball is basically going to die. So we do need to compensate with that to go and aim after the pin instead. Now we need to hurry up This shot with crosswind or tailwind is going to be better to play with an upgraded sniper, like in level 8, level 9, level 10. Other than that, it's going to be the Guardian. And if we do have headwind, I suggest the Guardian, as the Guardian is most likely going to have more distance than you're having with the sniper. If we do have a massive headwind, and you maybe don't have a ball that you can use with wind resistance, as our opponent here, you can see here, he's being in between clubs. Then we need to play with this with a driver, and then the rocket in level 10 is the best. Otherwise, it's going to be the quarterback. So, and I wouldn't suggest in this case to play with a basic ball, of course, because it's going to be way too hard, and this ball is going to end up way to the left, and yeah, way to the left. You can see here it's pushed way to the left here, hitting just the edge there of the corner there. So this was hole number 4. Let's go to hole number 5. Albatross attempt in my book. I do believe that we will see some albatrosses here. The only way that we wouldn't be trying to go over the water and the rough is if we would be having a straight headwind in our face. If we have tailwind, crosswind, or crosswind with a minor type of headwind, then we're going to go full blast overpower, try to get over. The reason I do want to go full blast overpower and risk the fact that we do have a water there, that is because the second shot, if we get over the water in the rough, is going to be so much better, or like it's going to be such a good opportunity for the albatross that we are going to, in my book, it's going to be kind of like a 1 out of 3 we're going to sink for an albatross, at least in my book. Max topspin with extra mile level 6, which is going to be 4.5 bar. As much side spin to the right as possible, combined with the 4.5 bar that we do have. And then I go max overpower combined with as much curl as I do possibly can use to the right with extra mile level 6. Have in mind here that you do not want to use, like let's pretend you have a apocalypse. You don't need to use curl, max curl with a club that do have like 70 or 80 in statistics in curl, because that could potentially make you over curl it and hit the rough on the beginning of the fairway or just on the other side. Last final piece with a drive there is 2 things, like not final piece, but 2 final pieces there. Add 10% to your drive. It's going to be played slightly downhill, combined with don't use more than 4 or 5 bars of topspin, because that could otherwise potentially put yourself into the rough there on the left, and that is going to be taking away the opportunity for the albatross almost completely, as then it's only to focus on getting the ball to green. From the position we are at now, we're going to play with a long iron. I'm playing with the Goliath, but for those of you that like to play with the Saturn and don't like to play with a rough bomb, then you should be playing a different approach, and I'm going to try to explain that at the same time. I'm going to decide for what approach I'm going to play when the tournament win has been revealed. 2 bars of topspin, we're going to aim straight at the pin. And here it's important that you do play with 2 bars in headwind. If we do have crosswind, we still play with 2 bars. If we do have tailwind, we can play with 1.5 bar. And then we're going to adjust the club for being in the position as it adds. So if it is in max distance, we'll play with max distance number, no elevation addition. If we are in medium distance, we'll play with medium distance number. If we do have minimum distance, we'll play with minimum distance number. If you would be having a Saturn, as I said, then you can aim on the top right corner of the green with 6 to 7 bars of backspin, and going for the fact that going to use the green to make the ball fall back down towards the pin. And that could also be a potential albatross. Hole number 6, par 4. And here it's important that we do play on the right side, in my opinion. I believe that the right side is going to take away the rough and the sand, not completely, it's still going to be there, but it's going to take it away, and it's going to give yourself an option to go for the eagle in this, like from distance. Our opponent's going to play left, and it's a very, very skinny part there to bounce past the rough and the sand there on the left. But if you feel very comfortable doing that, do so, as you're going to have a shorter approach towards the pin. But for us mortals, we're going to play on the right side. I'm going to use the extra mile here. Have in mind that this hole is going to have snow on it when we play it in the tournament, which is going to take away the shadows that we do have from the tree, as I normally use as a reference point. But we can have as a reference that we're going to play with our driver in max distance of our club with a power 1 ball. I'm using 1 bar of topspin here when we do have this massive tailwind. I would suggest that you use 2 bars of topspin in tailwind. If you do have crosswind, we use 3 to 4 bars of topspin. If you do have headwind, we use 5. It's important to change that spin approach, as you're otherwise going to be going short. You can see here we are going short here now, which is going to make the second shot harder than we did want it to be. And it's also very important for those of you that note down how far you will drive, that you get into the same area with your drive basically every single time, so you can replicate your second shot and be closer and closer and closer. For the second shot now, we're going to play with the Guardian, which is in my opinion not the best club. I would see us playing with the Sniper instead, as giving for the accuracy and for the ball guideline to be able to go for the pin. The most important part with the second shot is the adjustment for the elevation. We're going to have to subtract 10% to our adjustment due to the uphill approach. Take a look now when we're going to when we're going to take our shot. Okay, so a couple of seconds there. With this approach, we're going to play with 3 bars of backspin in crosswind, 4 bars of backspin in tailwind, and almost always max side spin to the left. The only way I would be taking that max side spin away is if I would be having a strong wind right to left. So mixing a little bit with the backspin here with the Guardian, this is going to be absolutely a lot to the left here, which is going to be a very lousy approach. But the thing that I want you to look now, how much uphill this is when we play, and that is going to make us have to adjust or subtract 10% to our adjustment. We go to hole number 7 before we finish watching where that ball landed up. That was a very lousy shot. Don't go with curl, ladies and gentlemen, and listen to my voice more than watching that shot, because that was a poorly shot, way off on the pin. Here, playing with the Sniper level 8. I'm going 1 bar backspin, going with 5.5 bar of backspin. You can see I'm not using max, I'm taking away the half a bar, so I'm going to play with 5 bars. The second bounce should be just after the fringe in terms of adjusting from this position here. I'm playing with a Navigator that do have power 1 to allow me to play with the Sniper in minimum distance of my club. I'm going to add 10% to our adjustment as well, as we're playing it downhill. So it's going to be minimum distance with 10% extra. You can see here coming in still too hot. Need to use that max backspin and need to a little bit further back with the landing position there. If you play with a power 3 ball, then you're going to be in between clubs. And then you're going to be playing with the long iron if you play with a Goliath, or you're going to have a big problem if you play with a back one or a Saturn that do have less distance than the Goliath. So decide for yourself how you want to play this hole. If you do get into a tailwind, are you going to play with your long iron? Then you play with a power 3 ball. If you're going to play with your wood club, pick a power 1 ball or less, so you're not going to be in between clubs with your adjustment. Then you also, in this case, if you do have headwind or crosswind, you're going to play with your wood club all the time, and always 10% over adjustment. Hole number 8, I'm going to show you 2 approaches here. One when we do have some crosswind but with some minor headwind, then I'm going to go for it. I would suggest though that you do play with a power 5 ball with this type of wind, because this is going to be very close to the rough and to rough sand and water actually. Power 3 ball at least, and that goes for every type of wind in my book. Max topspin with extra mile here, and also max side spin to the left to push ourselves in here. The only reason I'm using side spin to the left is because the wind is left to right. We're just getting over there, rolling down towards the top there, and that's no problem. because we're going to have a very decent approach here from the rough, and that is an approach that we're going to sink 8 out of 10 times. So that's why I'm going for it anyway. With tailwind, we always go to the right, trying to bounce over and land it on the green. Don't use more than 6 bars of topspin if you do have tailwind. If you do have crosswind, you go with as much as you want. If you do have a maxed out Thor Hammer level 7, go with all the topspin there. The more topspin, the less overpower you will have to use. But as a general overpower thing, crosswind, max overpower, even with a power fireball. If you do have tailwind, you, in some cases, depending on the driver, you will have to go with a slight overpower. If having, let's say, you're having a driver like the Apocalypse level 5, 240 yards of distance, then you most likely don't have to go with overpower, then you can just use the wind. But have that in mind when you're playing. Headwind, always go to the left side, and that is something that we also can bring with us here. If I would be hitting my shot great to the right, then I potentially would be in the water here. So my tip for you, headwind, always left side. Any other type of wind, like crosswind, tailwind, then we'll go right side going for the green. If we do have crosswind or tailwind, we're going to have this as a must eagle hole. And now let's go over and check how it looks with headwind. How should we be playing this one in headwind? Because that is something that I often forget to show, and I'm trying to show 2 approaches for those holes that where it is such a big difference on how to play them. So the thing that we're going to do here first is I'm going to only focus on the left side, and I'm not going to play it as our opponent is doing. He's going into overpower and have to play with a little bit of overpower, and that is always going to be risky, or at least riskier than playing a normal shot. So I'm going to play an approach. I'm going to play an approach that I'm going to actually use the rough. Very nice shot from our opponent, getting it over there. And I'm not saying that that is a bad way to approach, absolutely not. But I'm going to show you an alternative way, so I can bounce my ball directly in the rough, first and foremost, and then roll out on the other side. You can see I'm aiming with my second bounce just on top there, and something that I did forget to say for the first, in tailwind approach, that we do need to add 15% extra to our adjustment. That's very important. That goes the same for this shot here. We need to add 15% for this downhill approach. We bounce it in the rough, getting it over there to the other piece of fairway there. So, and from this position here, we're going to have a short iron towards the pin. It's either a short iron in max distance, or it's going to be long iron in minimum distance of our club. And then we're going to have to add 10% to our shot here. And then we aim, as we normally do, towards the pin. So we're going to go to hole number 9, last hole of the tournament. It's going to also be the toughest one in the whole tournament. Now, as we do have some snow on this course, it's going to the game makers has been removing the trees that usually stands alongside the bunker there on the left. So now we do have a much easier drive than we normally have with this type of wind. With tailwind, we can play directly over the bunker and the rough on the right side. Now when we do have some headwind, we're going to have to play on the left side of that part and before the bunker and the rough on the left. Then I'm going to go with some tiny bit of overpower, or around 50%, using max top spin, which is 4.5 bar, and 2 bars of side spin to the left. Now I hit the ball great to the left, which is going to put myself in the rough, and lucky me, I'm going to roll out, and that is going to still give me an option to go for the green in 2. And that's the thing, if you do cut the rough very short, or stay in the rough, or in this case going to just roll out and be short on the fairway, there's no way for us to reach for the green in 2. I'm also playing with a power 3 ball, which is going to be important for the first shot a little bit, but especially for the second shot, because that second shot is going to be very long. So our opponent here is already giving himself, I would say, not a no way, because you can still do it with max overpower with tailwind for the second shot, but I would say he decreases his opportunity to get to the green in 2 with playing with a basic ball. So, and also cutting the rough air, rolling out onto the fairway is not going to be making this second shot to be possible to go for the green. So I'm going to go with some tailwind here, which is good. With headwind, I wouldn't be... it would be a tough one. I would be having to go with a bunch of overpower if I would be with headwind. Now, the thing that I do want to achieve is with the max side spin and 4.5 to 5 bars of top spin approach, I'm going to want my second bounce to bounce on the left side of the bunker that you can see my second bounce is in now, to just get the ball to bounce in the rough, roll out to the fairway, and have a wedge towards the pin. Or in absolute best case scenario, the ball is going to roll down to the fairway, to the green, and we're going to have a putt for the eagle. So the curl here is a lot feeling included to get for where it's going to be, and we're getting it like the bounce is not what I wanted. We get it out there on the fairway. Just very, very close to get it to stop in the rough, and that would have been a big difference. Having a regular wedge instead of having a rough iron is a huge difference in terms of getting that ball getting that ball for an eagle or not. You can see here as well, going so short, even with a power 3 ball, the rough and the sand on the left side kind of prevents you from going towards the pin there. And so have in mind that the drive needs to be as long as possible. Stay away from cutting the rough as I did. Then that approach to the green is going to be an opportunity for an albatross, even though it's going to be tough. The drive, 10% extra, important that we add that as we're playing it downhill, so it's an over adjustment for 10%. Then for the second shot, we're not going to over adjust anything, we're just going to play it as it is. Then in the end, here is the playthrough for Pro and Expert division in the Winter Slopes tournament. If you do have any questions, let me know in the comment section below. Have in mind that this is not, as I said in the beginning, this is not the win that is going to be in the tournament. Maybe some is going to be the same, I don't know, because we only know that when the tournament is going to be announced. So look for the remade playthrough for Pro and for Expert. It's going to be 2 separate ones when the tournament is starting, so you can get more pinpointed adjustment. So also check out patreon.com/golfclashtommy for training sessions and text guides. This video here is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic, so good luck in the Winter Slopes tournament.